Noble people, this is Pearl, here to remind you with an update of what's happening with our 9 hosts, our hostages, the Navagraha in astrology at the moment. The placement of planets I use is based on the sidereal zodiac, and the teaching that inspires me is Vedic, Yotish astrology. So I want to say at the outset that right now there's been a lot of emphasis put on the current full moon, but I want to assure you that all of the planets, all of the graha, experience that same phase, and that's why I've used this image this time is of the phase of the moon and the way it goes up and down, the ebb and the flow that affects the tides, affects our feelings, affects our moods. But all of the planets have this motion. Now, just to remind you, the moon takes 2.5 days in each sign in its phase to go round each of the signs of the zodiac in a month. It takes roughly 27 to 28 days, and that's as a regular. So any of our moods are usually impacted by the position of the moon, especially in relation to how what they're visiting, what circumstances. Each sign of the zodiac in our personal charts represents a circumstance in our lives. So the moon phases will trigger at different times, different circumstances, and bring different experiences. But not just the moon, but the 9, all of the 9 planets, the 9 graha, the 9 hosts, or the hostages, as they talk about in the legend. All of them operate with this same experience of having areas where they're delighted to be in and areas where they're humbled to be in. And what I want to talk about today is particularly the Jupiter and the Saturn. The reason being that today or tomorrow, the 2nd of June, Jupiter will move to its place where it's its highest point. It's absolutely delighted to get back to the place where it's respected for what it has to offer, the wisdom, the higher ground, to see the middle way, and to help to protect the mind from the phases that it goes through and the shadows it experiences. So the Jupiter is coming back to its place of exaltation after 12 years. It takes the 12 years to do the rounds. It gets exalted in the sign of Cancer, which is now entering. It gets debilitated in the sign of Capricorn. Its own signs are Sagittarius and Pisces. And so when it's in any of those places, or aspecting or having an influence in any of those places, it brings that ability for us to be able to see the bigger picture and to rise above what seems like an endless life of misery sometimes. We think it's going to go on forever, when in actual fact it doesn't. Now, the other planet that I want to talk about, the other graha, is Saturn. Because while Jupiter is now moving to its place of exaltation after 12 years of doing the whole round of the zodiac, to come back into this place again where he's delighted is the word that's used. And so, but where Saturn is right now, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. And the sign of Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. It's the last sign. And not is it alone in the last sign of the zodiac, but it's in the last phase of the lunar mansions as well. Because the lunar mansions finish at the sign Revati, which, and I'm going to try and introduce something of these Lunar mentions. Not sure if I've lost this or not. Oh, no, I haven't. So that's a good little exercise on making a mistake when we're not sure of what we're doing, and so Saturn causes us to go back and look, especially with the technology, because I find that anytime I have to deal with the technology, it just gets me into a different headspace. So anyway, what I wanted to say about the Saturn, it's in the last sign of the zodiac. It's taken it the 30 years to come to this place. It takes it 30 years to get round the zodiac. It takes it 2.5 years in each sign. It's in the last phase of Pisces, and when it is that done, it will move to Aries, which is its lowest point, where it'll be most humbled and most in need of facing the truths, because Sat means truth. Sat means being. It's the bliss. It's the place of being, in the place of truth. And all the grievances, all the old wounds, all of that will be put behind us if we can do what's needed right now, which is having an audit of all the old circumstances, that whether what wrongs we have done, if we'd known better, we would have done better. Of, who hurt us, who do we hurt, and what do we need to do to make amends to ourselves and to the others who we may have harmed along the way. And can we continue to stay in that trauma, or can we shake it off? And I was just learning recently that it's a very good thing to do, is to shake it all out. Bit of rock and roll, bit of shannos dancing, whatever is your fancy. But get it, shake it off. Because it's what animals do when they get traumatized, or they get into a fear state. That as soon as they're in a place of safety, the first thing they do is shake it all out. And any of you that have a dog or you can see that, they just stand still and let it go, and then they get on with their time. And recognise, that what we've done or failed to do in the past doesn't need to continue to hold us. Now that we know better, we can do better. And because Jupiter is moving to its place of exaltation, and it's going to be smiling its blessings on this area where Saturn is now, it's going to bring an opportunity to heal what is past. Now, I know the circumstances in the world right now are it's beyond belief, really. Some of the possibilities that are being presented, and particularly, with technology and its hopes to control all the information of all the people on all the planet, and get automation to do everything. Now, I can't see how that can work. There's a creative force, that's a creative spirit that activates and puts purpose on the people on the planet, removing them from that sense of purpose is, if it is the higher purpose, that the planet be cleared, then so be it. That will be it. We're going to go anyway. But that the people who are greedy to control the resources on the ground and are willing to move the people out of the way to access whatever resources are there, it's a very small-minded notion, because who's going to be there to buy the products? Who's going to drive the battery-driven cars that cost the lives of children and people and the bogs in Ireland, and who's going to, if the people are already wiped out, the useless eaters, as sometimes you'll hear the expression used. So what I'm suggesting right now is that what we do right now is look to our talents, look to the gifts we've been given, take the blessings that Jupiter has to bring. Now he's left the sign of Mercury, Gemini, and the gossiping and the small talk, and it's time to move towards the higher mind and what we can do to protect our mind in all of this dilemma that's been asked of us. And Saturn, being in the last stage of Pisces and the last lunar mansion, is asking us to retrace our old stuff that we might even find it coming up in dreams or coming up in conversation or meeting people from the past, that something needs to be finished. And again, as I say, the thing is that my understanding is that if we don't take the lessons that we're presented with right now, we will have to come back and do it again. And that might be all right too, we might be able for it right now. And that's often the case. There's many books that I have picked up that I'm just not ready for. I'm just not ready for that knowledge. But I know it's there to be learned if I choose, or when I'm ready. And that's my aspiration, is that I will continue to develop my understanding, but I'm limited in my capacity to do so. Certainly as I get older and I'm forgetting so many things. And being able to use the computers obviously is a great benefit to young people, but to those of us older with no education in the area, it's assumed, I suppose, that we won't be needing the education. Otherwise there'll be some efforts made to introduce it. We've come a long way from what used to be 3 phones in the village I came from, and telegrams were sent when somebody needed to contact somebody, and the person would come in from wherever they lived and be at the phone at the time that the arrangement was made. That's not so long ago, but it's in my lifetime, and so it's a long way from having this access to people all over the world and be able to meet people from all over the world when you step outside the door. And, it's a wonderful thing to have that level of diversity, but it's also a wonderful thing to know what I come from and the richness and the beauty of what I come from, and to honour that too, to be able to welcome and those who come and visit or stay or whatever, that they appreciate the values of where they come to, and that we don't have to defend ourselves against them, or we don't have to isolate them, or they don't have to keep to themselves. It's okay to but a lot of cultures come from places where you don't talk to your neighbours, or you don't talk to the people around you, and so you can see it when you meet people that they're maybe shy to talk to us, or but there is a culture, there is a richness in where we come from, and so it's important to have it valued and appreciated and not mocked. The mockery is terrible. It just brings everybody down. And so, to face the truth, we are being audited in our consciousness. Our higher consciousness is asking us to look. It's time to let go and forgive, and to appreciate, forgive ourselves, forgive our lack of knowledge at a time when we did something and made a mistake. But we can choose to look at it from a different standpoint, know that we want to do better, know we can do better. And so it's the mind that we need to protect from all that's going on right now, because in the grand scheme of things, as my understanding has it, all is perfect. We have a unique purpose, And we have to trust the process, shake off the past, and just focus on the now and the benefits and what you're doing in the now, what's closest to your hand to be helpful to yourself. And if you can help yourself to be some way right with yourself and appreciate yourself, you'll be able to do that to the people around you as well. If you have no appreciation of yourself, or speak badly of yourself, or speak badly of others, you're creating problems. And we know that. We know it in ourselves. It's how sickening it is and how much we can take ourselves down. And that's what Saturn does. He brings us to that facing the truth of the things that we're doing that are not helpful for whatever reason. And, you can get your chart done now online for free. You can look it up, check it out, and, oh, you failed in this, or maybe you had something with your sister or your mother or your brother or whoever, but in yourself, you want to put it right, you want to make it right, and so be right with yourself first. Forgive yourself first. Lovely expression is Tor Mahuntastum, send me goodness, send me forgiveness. There is a higher power operating. We go to sleep at night, with the expectation that we're going to wake in the morning. We don't have to switch off the heart or switch on the heart. We don't have to switch on our brain. It's everything is functioning. Despite, we don't need to worry about what's going to come up in a dream. We don't need to. That's all going to happen as a way of cleansing, as a way of experiencing and letting go. And so, if we can trust that and do what we can to the best of our ability with what's asking for our attention today. So there's a saying that I want to remind you of, that there are 3 things we can be sure of. That there is this higher power operating, that there is human folly, and that there is laughter. And we cannot do anything or even understand sometimes why the first 2, and we keep asking those questions. But with number 3 and laughter, we must do what we can. And we can laugh, we can dance, we can sing, we can do things that lift the spirit. We can paint, we can get out and in the elements and experience what it is, the life force, the aliveness. So thanks very much for listening to me again now, and enjoy the welcome Jupiter in, and feel that helpful, healing, wise presence getting stronger in your life. Let go what you can, and if you cannot, remember it'll be there for you to do. Because, if you sow the potatoes, you get back potatoes. That's just the truth of it. Whatever we've done, if we can't make amends to ourselves and let it go and see the benefits that have come from, our mistakes, if we can't, then we'll have to see that circumstance again and realise the higher good that's operating. No matter how difficult it might seem. So that's my story for now. My name is Pearl Finn. I have a website, Vedic Astrology, on Vedic Astrology. And my telephone number is 087 244 1502 if you want to ask me anything. So, Gorma give Slán go forward.